Well, the United States government is divided after the president's immigration ban of 7 Muslim countries from entering the states over the weekend. Some local leaders as well as some state leaders had a lot to say. We'll take a look right now.
Look, again, I think that the president's signing of the executive orders are misguided, and is another clear signal among all of the protests and marches that you've seen that what he's doing more so than anything is uniting us, and that we're not going to tolerate his buffoonery.
I think that this country's always been one. When you look at Lady Liberty that sits in the harbor, she's always opened her arms and welcomed people into this country. And I just think it's unfortunate that we have a person in the White House who thinks that we should be shutting people out. I think that's not who this country is, and I'm just very disappointed that he's taken that upon himself to do that.
Well, I'm very much against what the president is doing. First of all, I'm against his building this wall with Mexico. I think it's insulting and not needed. And the same thing he's doing now with trying to keep people out of the country, Muslims and others. This is not America. We've always welcomed people to our shores.
You know, it's a very un-American thing that the president has set out to do. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed for us as a country. I think it's the wrong message. I think it's a wrong action. I think the president made a big mistake. I think he'll realize that hopefully soon enough. But to all those who are in very diverse communities, immigrant communities, they should know we stand with them 100%. Many of us will stand shoulder to shoulder to fight the good fight to make sure that we roll back these un-American policies. And you know what? We have a lot of work to do. It's also a message that we should never again fall asleep at the wheel during an election cycle and allow someone who campaigned on this type of divisive message to get elected, because now we're seeing the dangers of allowing that to happen. But we'll fight that fight, and to all those that are watching, we're with you, and we will do what we need to do at the state, at the city level, and at the federal level to fight back.
It's really an abomination of all that we stand for as Americans, what the new president is doing. The message that he is sending to the immigrant communities, not only who have made this country the greatest, but potential future generations. It's important to bear in mind that there would be no United States of America as we know it now, had it not been for generation after generation of new immigrants who come here with a love and passion for freedom, a skill set from their countries, and also what they are leaving behind. They are leaving behind this sort of totalitarian rule to come here to embrace freedom. And it's really unfortunate that this ban is sort of highlighting this us against them mentality when really there is no them or us, it's all of us together.
Now, to find out how this new order on immigration just might affect you, we welcome now the managing partner of Wiles and Weinberg Law Offices, Michael Wiles, who is an immigration lawyer. And Mr. Wiles, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Let's talk a little bit about this here. I mean, obviously, of course, across the weekend, a lot of controversy, but not just a lot of controversy, a lot of chaos. We know family members being told that their loved ones would not make it out of JFK and many places across the United States. From your perspective, how are things working out right now?
Well, right now it's kind of in hiatus. The government has restricted aliens from 7 nations, and it's turning what is a beacon to the world in democracy, a land of immigrants, into chaos. Unfortunately, this executive order, in my opinion, and many others, was ill-conceived and not reflective of the heritage that we've enjoyed as a nation that serves as a safe haven, and one that truthfully has made itself so much stronger nationally, internationally, because of the very entrepreneurship of foreign nationals and immigrants.
Well, talk to us about this. We know that there was an order that was issued, a federal order that was issued challenging the executive order. Give us a little bit about that, and what exactly did that do?
Right. So the federal judge enjoined the government from actually removing individuals from the United States and sending them back to harm's way, where they could actually be tortured or have problems. But it didn't stop the federal government from continuing to selectively stop people from coming from certain nations. In other words, those individuals and nationals of those countries are still restricted from coming into the United States. Fundamentally, they have stopped all refugees from Syria, and the government is now putting a moratorium for a period of time on accepting any refugees for a 4-month period of time. It also cuts the amount of refugees that President Obama had designated. It is a presidential prerogative from 110,000 individuals or souls down to 50,000, and there is some fine exceptions written into it where people can be admitted for the nation's security, or people that are in a religious minority and are being persecuted, and so forth. This whole thing oriented itself, I believe, in a very credible fashion with our president, who I believe in his heart is a patriot, really wanted to create more extreme vetting to be assured that, God forbid, no American should fall at the hands of somebody who didn't have the right to be here, or that terrorists get themselves rooted here. But I fail to understand how restricting aliens from 7 primary Muslim countries without looking at Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, 16 of the 19 hijackers were Saudi Arabian, and the 11 million people that are here unlawfully, how, effectively picking on 7 people. You beat up 7 people, and then you hope the rest of the world will continue to act in kind, or is it going to antagonize them and cause them to want to do us more harm?
Well, if we put the facts out there, I mean, when you look at the ban itself and those countries that have been banned from entering into the U.S. right now, none really have terroristic ties. Many people have asked the question whether or not it is tied to possibly some of the president's business dealings, but we won't get into that. I do want to get into families right now, because there are a lot of families that have been fragmented, a lot of families that have been actually affected by this. Talk to us about your work with families right now, because I know phone calls have to be coming into your office.
Well, I'm a second-generation immigration lawyer. You should just know on principle, this is something that's been part of my household DNA. My father started our firm, we're in 53rd and Madison in Midtown, in 1960, and he was credited with getting a green card for John Lennon when he took on the Nixon administration that was trying to use a drug conviction to get John out when it was really political reasons. Families are the backbone of our practice, and I can tell you there's a tailspin right now. Some of the more prominent clients we have, even a cancer doctor from Iran that travels the world over who had a green card case approved can't get in. And some of the biggest titans of industry who are dual nationals with Canada and have nationality in other countries can't get into the United States this time and could be detained at length. So it's a real challenge for us to guide people and to kind of explain that this diamond in the rough, the greatest experiment in democracy, America, is turning its shoulders, is actually closing Lady Liberty's eyes. I mean, we fought the pirates on the high seas in the 1700s with the Alien Sedition Acts, and we didn't stop taking on those tired and poor and huddled masses. Here, what we're doing is we're running scared. And, again, I don't think that's proper. I am a former federal prosecutor. I'm a former mayor in New Jersey where I live, and I resent the posture that we're taking when it comes to doing this. Our children are watching us, and we got to respond in kind.
Talk to me a little bit about your counsel to families right now. Obviously, if you're a family that's been fragmented by this, what kind of word do you give them? What kind of assurance do you give them that this will pass, or do you give them assurance that this will pass?
There are 2 kinds of families that we're seeing, Daren. We're seeing first families that are physically affected by this because they hail from Sudan or Iran or other countries, and those individuals have been pre-warned and are not coming to the United States, or they're getting specific counsel how to handle themselves. Then there's the apprehension that just about anybody with an accent has in coming forward because they don't know what to expect of the president the next time. Couples that are taking honeymoons or vacations, or people that have all sorts of minute challenges. We are not Puritans, and we expect our foreign nationals to be cleaner and better than Americans. And the truth be told, Americans were all immigrants at one point. So we're in many ways setting standards that we are not keeping, and we are naive that in accepting that employers and the most talented foreign students are going to tolerate this kind of conduct. Right now, Israelis, Jews, cannot go to those 7 countries. And instead of telling those 7 countries that this is an inappropriate way to treat any person of any faith, we're now turning the mirror on them. So, again, I don't think that you go low, and we have to keep the banner high. And I don't doubt the president's sincerity in trying to make America safer and to make sure that he uses immigration as not only an economic engine, but to protect our homeland. But we're focusing on 7 obscure nations, albeit progenitors of some really nasty terrorists, while we have more than 11 million people within our backyard. So go try to figure how they rolled this out. And they rolled it out in such a dispassionate way, and which I don't mind, because I understand from a homeland security metric you can't really warn people. But the agencies were like the Keystone Cops. They were, hitting each other in the eyes. They had no idea. One was saying one thing, the other one was saying another thing. In the meantime, we're locking people up and off to the courts.
Give us a little bit
By the
of
way,
insight.
all of this happened because of the vacuum that was created in Washington. Had Congress not sat silently, and a lot of these members of Congress really need to be replaced because they are completely ineffective in talking about immigration and homeland security without getting worried they won't get reelected. Had they stepped up and done the right thing all these generations, we wouldn't be allowing a president. He wouldn't have the legal authority because Congress vests the plenary power of immigration in its legislation. The president is just using his discretion on laws that Congress has to make.
Mike, let me just ask this question before we get out of here. I want to ask the question, can you just walk us through this? If an immigrant is detained, and we know about the detaining process that took place this weekend, how long does that process go on for? And as a lawyer, can you give us a little bit about the interaction if a client of yours finds themselves there
No
and
problem,
detained?
sir. So a person comes into the United States. If they are a national or if there's an issue, an eyebrow is raised, they're then taken from the primary inspection to a secondary inspection. And from there, a decision is made. There is no right to counsel or to have a lawyer at this because they haven't effectively made an entry, even though they're physically on U.S. soil. Legally, they haven't been admitted. And then the games begin. Are they going to be held? Are they going to be summarily returned back? If the person claims a credible fear of persecution, they cannot put them on an airplane in good conscience under the Convention Against Torture and other UN international rules. And they eventually will then find themselves into some facility where they will have the right to counsel and they will get a day in court and so forth. This is a big burden on taxpayers. It's a big embarrassment the way it was rolled out. Come up with something effective. Look, I happen to represent Mr. Trump's organizations, Trump Models. I acted on behalf of Melania Trump this summer, and I'm a very proud Democrat. I believe that the president's heart is in the right place, and certainly Mrs. Trump is a lady beyond compare and has a great sense of propriety and respect for compliance. She herself was kind of a modern Queen Esther, having the ear of the president and being an immigrant herself. We have to get this right. We cannot allow the greatest and the brightest students turn their back on America, and we can't allow ourselves to allow politicians to make mistakes. Mind you, both the president and the citizens are patriots, and we get a better product by making sure that we do this properly.
Michael Wiles, who's the managing partner of Wiles and Weinberg, immigration lawyer, we want to thank you so much for sharing with us here on Open. And of course, we'll continue to follow this. And of course, Michael, we'll get back at you. Thank you very much for sharing with us.
Pleasure, honored to help.
All righty. Got to take a quick break, but listen, we'll have more show coming right back. We'll break down the president's executive order and what's going on. We'll talk with our political analyst and our political correspondent when we return right after this.